I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time.
Hello and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James. And every week I get to introduce you to another powerful woman, a woman who has said yes to her life, who has stepped into her field of passion, and who understands that by playing full out, they make a difference on this planet. I think that this is a time for women emerging, that our caring, loving, brilliance, powerful nature is extremely needed in this moment to bring about a little more harmony. So, like I said, I do these every week. You can come back and meet a new beautiful woman. We are on all the platforms: Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon. We're on video, YouTube. Just look for Women Awakening with Cynthia James and subscribe. You can also go to cynthiajames.net and I have lots of resources in my newsletter, and you can join my community. Today, I have a powerful guest. Her name is Andrea Page. She's a neuroscientist, holistic health practitioner, and cancer alchemist, deeply devoted to empowering others in their health and their wellness journey. 9 years ago, Andrea left conventional work and life, moved to the jungles of Costa Rica with her family. We will be talking about that. And Andrea runs 2 companies, Cancer Alchemy and All Things Frequency, both focused on health, healing, and expansion of consciousness using principles and practices of natural medicine, energy healing, and I'm hoping I'm saying this right, say it again.
Entheogens.
Entheogens. Okay. Thank you very much. Which is why I'm not a scientist. Okay. So Andrea, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I just want to start with how you grew up. Was health and wellness a part of your family? I mean, how did you grow up?
I grew up in Montreal. I mean, I had a very sort of normal childhood. Did not grow up with health and wellness. My parents really lacked that sort of nutritional education. So my passion for nutrition, for healing really began in my teenage years, where I had to advocate for myself because I had a lot of digestive issues. And so I started researching nutrition when I was like 13. And it became a big part of my own healing and then wanting to help others as well.
Well, that's beautiful. And so you went to school to become a neuroscientist. And when you did that, I mean, was it to just be in service to others, or was there something else underneath?
I mean, I feel like when I went to university, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I'd always been really fascinated with the mind. I had discovered yoga and meditation fairly early on in my late teens and early 20s. And so I was really drawn to learning more about the mind. Now, I kind of hoped that I would learn that in university, but, because it's mainstream, we learn a lot of more of how the brain works, but not the mind and consciousness. So a lot of that was sort of, I learned outside of the institution. So I kind of fell into it. And then I went on to study because there's not a whole lot you can do with neuroscience unless you get a PhD. So I went on to study radiation oncology, and I worked in that for a decade. So I worked in radiation therapy for almost 10 years. And that was really my altruism, wanting to help people. And that's, I think, in my younger years, how I felt like I could be of service, and discovered partway through that wasn't my journey.
Yeah, well, I find that really interesting, because academia doesn't necessarily, nurture the mind-body connection. They're giving you all the scientific stats, but, how does this impact you're changing your thinking and changing your connection to your body? How does that work? And I want to talk about, so here you are, a cancer alchemist. So you were working in radiation. Were you supporting people in dealing with their mindsets while that was happening?
Well, I mean, I tried to, but my within healthcare, you have a scope of practice and it's very limited in terms of what you can say and what you can do. And so I worked in treatment, delivery. So I treated people that had cancer with radiation. And I would ask, how are you doing? How is your nutrition? Do you have stress management? And I was reprimanded because they would tell me, you're spending too much time with patients. You just need to treat them and then they need to go. And so it felt really disconnected for me, and it felt misaligned in terms of really how people heal, right? And so I started to read and learn outside of my profession, and I even started doing training a couple of years before I even decided to leave that profession. And I went down a rabbit hole and discovered this whole other world of natural medicine. They call it alternative, but it's really complementary, or integrative medicine is really what I've come to understand it to be. And I just felt so drawn to that world. And when I started talking to people, especially I would start to ask my patients, those ones that were incorporating these therapies, and they were just doing so much better during treatment than the ones that weren't. And I found that really fascinating. So I started almost like interviewing them to discover what they were doing, which just opened my world even more, to the point where it was the summer of 2014. I went to work one day and I hit this moment where I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I went into my manager at lunchtime and I said, I'm handing in my resignation. And I went home that night and I said, I quit my job today. And so my partner was like, great, now we can move to Costa Rica. And we did. We made that happen inside of, I think, 6 weeks. So.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Couple things here. Why Costa Rica?
That was his dream. He wanted to go and explore that. So we decided that we would go as a family. Our kids were 2 and 4 at the time. They were very little. We decided, well, we'll just go check it out and see if we liked it. And so we decided to go. We were going to spend 3 months there. And that was in 2015. So.
Well, and it is a magical place. I mean,
Yeah.
It totally is. And, I was reading an article, I don't know, it was last year, about how people age very gracefully in Costa Rica. Well, I want to talk a little bit about integrative medicine and cancer alchemy. I was speaking to someone recently who was a doctor in Houston at a hospital in the cancer ward, and they deal a lot with integrative medicine, which is unusual.
Mm-hmm.
So what is cancer alchemy?
So I've come to understand that cancer is our way of our body speaking to us. It's communicating. There's a really interesting book called Cancer is Not a Disease, essentially it's that cancer is not trying to harm you. It's not trying to kill you. It's actually trying to protect you. And through my experience, my decade in conventional medicine, I came to realize that maybe that wasn't the optimal way. Not to say that it's not an option for people at certain times. Of course, this is part of the integrative medicine of there is a time and a place for these, but there is also so many other things that we can be doing to support our health and healing. And that's what cancer alchemy really is. It's peeling back the layers to understand, why is this in our life at this time? And through the work and my own personal evolution, especially in the last 9 years, has come to understand that everything is energy. And even the physical manifestation of cancer has an underlying energetic component. And so that is a lot of the work that I do with my clients, is understanding more of the emotional and psychological components of not only having the disease, but why it's in their life at this time, and then also how to reverse it. So it's like an alchemical process of healing their body physically, but also doing that healing on a deeper emotional and energetic level.
Yeah. That is so powerful. I really believe too that everything is energy and information, and what you do with it, is based on where you are in your consciousness. So let's talk about frequency, all things frequency.
Yes. So a couple of years ago, I discovered frequency therapy and I started to integrate it with my clients, and they loved it because it really empowered them. And that is my mission with Cancer Alchemy and with the work that I do in the world now. Because of my experience in conventional medicine, I found it very disempowering for people. they get a diagnosis and they say, this is the treatment that you're going to get. They get put into a box based on their diagnosis, and that's the treatment that they get. There's no decision making that really happens in there, or even a holistic perspective about the person, right? They are a person that has this in their life at this time. And so when I discovered the frequencies and I started to educate my clients on how to incorporate this into their lifestyle, they were blown away, because they really started to understand their own energy, what they were feeling in that moment, right? Do they have pain? Are they having challenges with sleep? Maybe they're feeling more anxiety or depression, whatever it was. They could select a frequency program to support them in that moment. So they developed this like relationship with themselves, and they gained a deeper understanding of their own physical body and their own mental and emotional body, and then felt really empowered to be able to apply the frequencies to bring them back into balance. So it was mind blowing for me to start to use this, and because empowerment is such a mission of mine, to see that in people, and so then by circumstance and synchronicities, I aligned with a gentleman in the U.S., and he's a shaman. And we came together and we said, hey, he was really interested in it, and I was really interested. And we're like, we complement each other really well, because he works in the non-physical and I work more in sort of the science-based, natural medicine realm. And so we found that we had this really beautiful synergy. And we started this company called All Things Frequency, and it's just taken on a whole life and community of its own. And so now we've moved beyond cancer and really just empowering a whole community of people that are interested in really learning how to take care of themselves on a deeper level.
Well, that's beautiful. Can we go just a little bit deeper into, frequency therapy?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that a little more.
Okay, so when we have, whether it be a physical symptom like pain, or more of a mental, say, discomfort like anxiety or depression, or an emotional imbalance, right? Sometimes we feel emotions really strongly. And when you look at that, you can actually measure that and detect an imbalance in our frequencies. Everything in our body has a frequency. Our organs carry a particular frequency. We're all vibrating at different frequencies. And when we start to have these manifestations at whatever level they're at, it's an imbalance. And so you can apply a frequency to bring it back into balance. So you can apply a frequency for pain. It's usually measured in hertz. So like for instance, like a really low frequency, like 0.5 or 1 hertz up to 40 is really amazing for pain. It'll take your pain away in 20 minutes or less. It's incredible. And so it's a biofeedback that you can do to kind of bring the body back into balance. So it harmonizes our energy field.
And how do you do that? I mean, is it a machine?
I work with a device, and
Okay.
it has the capacity to read into your bioenergetic field and tell you what's going on and what your body could use support with, and then you apply the frequency. So it's actually, I wear it pretty much most of the time. It's teeny tiny, and it's amazing. So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say I come to you and I have a diagnosis. What kind of steps would you take with me to get clear about what I needed?
Well, I do a very thorough intake when I meet with people to understand them again as a person, right? So we look at nutrition, we look at lifestyle, we look at relationships, we look at the things that people are doing on a day-to-day basis, because that's really what's going to help them reverse or bring things back into harmony within their body and their mind and their spirit. And so it's very much a collaborative effort. It's not me telling somebody what to do. It's really understanding their intention, what they need, what they want, and coming from that place, because they're much more invested in it when they feel like they're making the decisions. It's empowering for them, right? Because I can say, okay, this is what you want. Here are some of the things that you can do, and which ones resonate with you, and which ones feel like you could incorporate them and be committed to doing that.
Well, that's beautiful. It also gives the client, I'm sure, a feeling of safety and connection that you're doing that level of work with them before you do anything else.
Oh, for sure. This is a safe, sacred space that we're doing. We're building trust. We're building a relationship. This is healing in collaboration.
It's beautiful. All right, so you're a mom
Yeah.
and you're running two companies and you're married. Okay, a couple questions. The first one is, how are you creating a work-life harmony?
Okay, that's a great question. For a long time, I wasn't. I homeschooled my kids for many, many years. And about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, I ended up hiring a teacher. And so that we had a teacher come to our house. We had got 3 families had collaborated to hire this teacher. And so all these kids were coming to my house. And then we actually went through a few different iterations. And up last year, we got up to 14 children and had 2 teachers. It was in my house. It was a little chaotic. But we have my children guide their own education. They've never been to a school. They're complete wildling jungle kids that never wear shoes. And so our education for them is really based on their interests. Of course, we do core subjects like math and English and science and reading and writing, but they get to choose a lot of their own. And so we work in a collaborative effort to get them to design their own curriculum. And so they have school basically in the morning, which is when I work. So when they're in school and they're with their teacher, that's kind of when I work. And when they're out of school, then we play. So I work very part-time, a couple of hours a day. I mean, it's sort of, my schedule is kind of, when you're an entrepreneur and you're passionate about what you do, you're like always working. But I work in kind of fits and spurts around really being with my kids and being present for them, and having this time with them is such a short, they're already 11 and 12 and the time has just flown by. So for me right now, where they still want to spend time with their mom, I'm really just trying to savor these moments and be present. So
Well, it's
I feel
beautiful.
like we've found a good work-life balance, especially once the teacher has come on. So it
Hmm.
was a challenge before when I was homeschooling them and working.
Well, it sounds like an ideal life for your children. Are you concerned at all that when they want to go to university or something like that, that there may be an adjustment?
There will be an adjustment regardless of what they do in their life, because they've grown up in the jungle.
Mhm.
So, we're from Canada originally, and we came back to Canada for the first time in 5 years this summer. And so it was very eye-opening for us. And I saw the difference between my kids and their energy versus children in North America. My kids are very connected to nature. They understand, they have a reverence for that. So there will be an adjustment for them for sure. Lots of growth, but I'm trying to give them the skills and tools that they can be resilient, they can be adaptable, flexible.
Well, it's just beautiful. I mean, it sounds like a very free lifestyle where they get to explore, and so I think that's lovely. And where does husband fit in all this?
So their dad, we're actually not together anymore,
Okay.
but we're in a co-parenting
Oh,
harmonious partnership, would say. We're in a partnership because we have 2 children together. So yeah, he's a very active part of their life. He's really driven by entrepreneurship. So we share a lot of those responsibilities with him. He does a lot of entrepreneurship with the kids, and teaching them about that. And they actually wrote and published 2 books on Amazon this summer together. So they've got their own cool stuff going on as well.
oh, I just love it. Well, it's um, what an extraordinarily interesting life you've chosen, and a field that you've opened up for people to step into for health and well-being. And so, what would you say um, is the most important thing about working with your children on health and well-being and their choices?
I feel like with kids and adults, the best thing is to live what you preach, right? And so my kids, I've been talking to them about nutrition since they were little. So they've never been fussy eaters because we embody what we practice. And so for them, they understand. It's not to say that they don't like their treats and they don't want to have sweets, but they understand, what is healthy and what is more of a treat. And so it's sort of being a good role model for them and modeling the way that I think that would be helpful for them. So they understand the importance of moving your body, of engaging your brain, of having good practices. Like, we're one of the big things that's been a big part of my journey the last couple of years is really cultivating more emotional health. I didn't grow up in an environment where we talked about emotions, or we were even, were emotionally healthy. We would have conflict. There would be no resolution around it. And so that's become a big part of my journey as in a later adulthood. And so I'm doing that for my kids, because I feel like if they have those skills where they understand what emotions feel like in their body, and having tools to, work that energy through, or even just be able to feel it and express it, right? And so that's kind of the work that we've been doing more as a family more recently.
Yeah. So the work I do with my clients is called emotional integration, primarily because how I came up, nobody talked about emotions. In fact, you pushed them down. And so a lot of times when clients are coming to me, they're coming because their emotions are hijacking the things that they want to create in their lives. So tell me, how do people find you and this amazing work?
So my business partner, Chad, and I have a website called All Things Frequency. We also have a Facebook group that's very active. So if somebody's more curious about learning about frequencies, frequency therapy, how to empower your own life, and how to, learn how to manage your own energy, even, and take back control of your body, mind, and spirit, right? And doing that work. So allthingsfrequency.com is one website, canceralchemy.com. If somebody is on a journey of cancer and they want to have a more integrative approach and have support in largely the mental and emotional realm, then they can find me on that, canceralchemy.com.
Well, that's awesome. And so you work with people all over.
Yeah, all over online. I've got online programs. We do coaching, we do group coaching, detoxes, lots of things out there.
It's beautiful. Well, I ask the same last question of every guest. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing about women awakening on the planet in this moment?
Empowerment, for sure. We have so much power within us, especially as women, in order to manifest what we want, the life that we want to lead, to manifest things in our life that will really bring us joy and happiness. This is my big mission right now, is like discovering what happiness is, and finding that balance. So definitely we have more power than we've ever been led to believe. And I think that, leaning into that, you discover a whole new world for yourself.
Absolutely. And I think it's why there's so many sectors in the world that are afraid of us. And so I thank you so much, because I think empowerment and understanding our power is extraordinarily important. Thank you so much for being here, and I love the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much.
All right, ladies, I'm just going to close the way I always close. This is your time to shine, to bring your brilliance, to tap into your talents, your gifts, and your passions, and let them come forward, unleash them, because the world needs us individually and collectively to make a difference, for not only for ourselves, but for our children and our children's children, and for this planet. So I say step up and step out into your greatness, because the world is waiting for you. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.